When the television flickered on, nobody was prepared for what they would see. Yandy Smith, who is usually calm, collected, and unflinching, was obviously trembling as thousands of people watched her Instagram live in real time. Her voice cracked, her eyes flooded, and then the words dropped like a bombshell. What had started out as a lighthearted check-in with fans transformed into a raw emotional collapse, as Yandy revealed that she had just found a betrayal that went deeper than anything she had ever experienced. In a couple of minutes, timelines blew up, followers were taken aback, and social media went into full meltdown mode. Rumors had nothing to do with the tears, according to Yandy. Evidence is involved in this. Screenshots, late-night conversations, messages, and at the center of it all, two names that nobody would have expected to be mentioned together. Mendeecees Harris and Erica Mena. Yandy gasped. "I defended everybody, and this is how I'm repaid," she said. As they watched her wipe away tears, viewers' emotions were running high. It was clear that she was torn between finishing the live performance and expressing the truth at last. In comments that passed more swiftly than anybody could read, fans demanded explanations, pleaded with her to log off, and accused her of holding back for years. It was unbearably stressful. Was this a secret operation that escaped detection? A long-simmering betrayal hidden under smiles and photos from the red carpet? Or something more darker that the cameras failed to capture? By the time Yandy abruptly ended the live performance, one thing was clear. Fans were shaken, the family was divided, and a scandal had been officially revealed. And that was only the beginning. The live didn't really end when the screen went blank. Yandy's phone started vibrating non-stop as soon as her finger touched the button, leaving fans puzzled. Immediately, her screen lit up with missed calls, DM after DM, and names she hadn't spoken to in months. With her hands shaking and her chest tight, she muttered to herself that she should never have gone live. But it was too late. The truth, or at least her truth, was now being pulled like a loose thread by the world. She sat alone on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, and repeated her last remarks before cutting the live. "I defended everybody." Her comments rang louder than any criticism because, in her view, defending everyone meant protecting secrets that weren't hers to keep. It meant having trouble swallowing at family gatherings. It meant ignoring small red flags that she persuaded herself didn't matter. Suddenly, these red flags were flashing brightly, and the music was too loud to ignore. Her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a fan. It was Mendeecees. She remained silent. She couldn't, not yet. The agony was still too fresh and too severe. Another call came in a few minutes later. Erica. The bitter, broken laugh that erupted from that one even surprised her. With her emotions flowing high, she slammed the phone across the bed as if it had somehow betrayed her, whispering to herself, "Now you want to talk?" Erica was pacing her homeroom across town, constantly checking social media and clicking her fingernails on her phone. Her name was linked to phrases like serpent, betrayal, and infidelity, and the song fans are shocked was already well known. She argued that it was all lies and that people were doing the most, even though her hands were shaking. Since she knew how this appeared. She knew that the late-night check-ins and the texts went against what she had promised never to do. It wasn't supposed to end up here. It was never supposed to be seen. Meanwhile, Mendeecees sat in his car with the motor off and gazed straight ahead, as though if he didn't move, time would reverse itself. He had seen the whole live performance. The crack in Yandy's voice made him feel sick to his stomach. He kept convincing himself that other people wouldn't understand the music and that it was hard. But the truth was simpler and more unpleasant. Decisions were made, boundaries were crossed, and the family was now divided before the real conversation had begun. Yandy's sister showed up at her house out of the blue. She didn't knock. She walked in without hesitation, her phone still in her hand and her eyes wide. "Tell me this isn't true," she said without even introducing herself. It took Yandy some time to answer. She only looked down, the kind of tears that slide when you're too tired to cry out loud. That silence conveyed more than any confession. Every time Erica came around, the energy shifted. "Fans see it before we do sometimes," her sister continued, speaking more gently. Yandy started crying again at that point because hearing someone else say it brought it to life in a way that screenshots could never. She admitted that she had seen texts weeks earlier, which at first seemed harmless check-ins jokes, but then there were deleted threads, time gaps, and the kind of silence that only happens when conversations are ongoing. Claiming that Yandy was behaving like a victim, Erica hastily called a friend who lived on the other side of town. She sobbed about loyalty and how everyone always portrays her as the enemy. "I didn't sleep with him," she said again and over, as if saying it again would make it real enough for the internet. Even her friend, though, was reluctant to respond, and that reluctance hurt more than any criticism. Old films, interviews, and circumstances that seemed questionable in hindsight flooded the comment sections. A long-lasting embrace, an excessively extended laugh. Emotions ran high as strangers examined each shot like detectives, believing they had cracked a code hidden in plain sight. Nobody was waiting for the details. This gave them the drama they were hoping for. That night, Yandy finally answered Mendeecees' call. She put him on speaker, but she remained silent for a while. After a long moment of silence, he sighed and whispered her name, as he always did when he knew she was in distress. "How long?" she asked in a soothing yet terrifying tone. His hesitation was the loudest reaction she could have gotten. "Don't lie to me now," she pleaded. Once again, the link became silent. "I went live defending our family while you were protecting yourself." He then started talking rapidly, downplaying, explaining, and asserting that nothing had happened that viewers could see. But Yandy was no longer paying attention. Looking at a photo of them all together on her dresser, she was smiling as if nothing could ever break them. By the end of the call, Yandy knew this wasn't just about Erica. It was about trust and years of holding things together while cracks started to show. She didn't know what was ahead, but she knew one thing for sure. Once they glimpsed the light, secrets never go back to the dark. As the night wore on, the story resumed where it had just ended, with another message arriving and another phone vibrating. At first, Yandy was unable to identify the number that sent the message. There was no name, no photo, just a short line that made her stomach turn. That was all. "You deserve to know everything." Neither a greeting nor an explanation, just enough to pull her back into the chaos she was trying to breathe through. Taking a deep breath, her sister looked over her shoulder. "See, it's never just one thing. It's always layers," she whispered. Yandy hesitated before answering. Her mind raced with possibilities. A buddy trying to help, someone trying to stir things up, or worse, someone who has been watching from the sidelines the whole while. Finally, she typed back 2 words. "Say it." The response appeared instantly. It seemed as though the sender had been repressing it for too long because this time was longer, messy, and emotional. Erica and Mendeecees had multiple encounters. "I didn't want to be involved, but I can't watch you get played like this." As she read the message over and over again, Yandy's emotions were running high, each word hitting her like a bruise. "Met where?" she said, even though a part of her already knew the answer wouldn't help. That. A hotel, not just any old place, that they had all stayed at on a group holiday months earlier was mentioned in the response. The memories had a powerful effect on her. She remembered making jokes about how tired everyone was, laughing in the lobby, and getting up early while everyone else stayed below drinking and enjoying music. Her sister closed her mouth. "That was the night you said he came up late," she whispered. Yandy nodded slowly. She had written it off back then. He said he had lost his sense of time. Families depend on trust, even if that trust is fragile, and she trusted him because it was easier to believe than to doubt. Across town, Mendeecees was getting his own messages. His friends cautioned him about the rapid evolution of the internet. Fans were shocked, bringing up all of the previous rumors and depicting this as just another chapter rather than a shocking development. He felt confined. He called Erica again in a low, desperate voice. "They're saying too much," he said. "Someone's talking." Erica shot back, saying she was no longer requesting that he give her a call. "You said this wouldn't come out," she yelled. Erica felt as though everything in her life was falling apart. Blurry screenshots were being shared on websites, which was enough to provoke speculation but not enough to establish anything. "Now I look crazy and you're sitting quiet." She went live for a short while, urging them to stop lying about her while her eyes were red and her voice was shaking. But the comments were scathing. Fans are calling her phony. Fans accused her of betraying another lady to attract attention. She quickly committed suicide after realizing she was no longer in control of the narrative. Yandy concluded that she was no longer able to remain at the residence. She demanded face-to-face answers. Telling her sister to stay behind, she reached for her keys. The kaleidoscope of memories that played while she drove was something she never asked for. Dinners where Erica complimented her outfit excessively. Mendeecees seemed distracted whenever Erica went into a room. She convinced herself that all the little things had no significance because acknowledging them would have required acknowledging that anything was wrong. She didn't knock when she got to Mendeecees' house. When he opened the door and saw her, his expression fell. "You shouldn't be here," he said in a defensive tone. That was a false statement. She didn't speak out. That was what scared him more. "You don't get to tell me where I should or shouldn't be," she replied. "Not after what I just found out." The mood inside was akin to that of a cyclone, with a lot of stress and powerful music. She placed her phone on the table and gestured towards him. The message thread was open. He stared at it with a clenched jaw. "Who sent you this?" he said, and she shook her head. "Doesn't matter. What matters is if it's true," he said, pausing once more before answering. That same hesitancy, the one she now recognized as guilt. "Say it," she demanded as tears filled her eyes. He asked, barely nodding. "Did you meet her?" "Just to talk," he hurriedly added, as though that would mitigate the effect. Yandy laughed sharply and painfully. Meanwhile, Erica was losing her mind. "At a hotel? Many times? While I was upstairs. And you want me to think you were just chatting?" She threw her phone across the room as another notification showed up. She also felt duped in her own way. In this situation, she had convinced herself that there was no hurt, no sentiments, and mutual understanding. Mendeecees said nothing, and she was now presented as the antagonist. When she called him again, he answered. She heard Yandy's voice in the background, and panic shot through her. "Put me on speaker," she said sharply. Yandy froze when she heard Erica's comments echo throughout the room. "I'm not letting this be one-sided." "So now you want to talk," she said icily. Erica took a breath. "I never meant to hurt you," she said. It was like adding petrol to a fire just by saying that. "You don't accidentally hurt someone like this," Yandy shot back. "This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice." From that point on, the argument broke out, with accusations flying, voices overlapping, Yandy demanding explanations for correspondence that had been erased in secret meetings, and Erica insisting that nothing tangible had happened. Mendeecees tries in vain to control the chaos he caused. In just a few minutes, years of stress exploded, creating intense emotions. Erica finally lost her cool. "You've always acted like you were better than me," she replied. "It seems like you had the perfect family. Maybe I wanted to make sure." Mendeecees looked shocked, and the room fell silent. Yandy realized that this was more than just a rumored affair. Before anyone acknowledged it, it was about jealousy and long lines. Yandy sensed something in her heart that went beyond simple betrayal. It was resentment that had been simmering in the background, waiting for an excuse to come to the surface. "You let her disrespect me," she muttered, turning to face Mendeecees with empty eyes after hanging up the phone. He tried to grab her, but she backed away. "Don't touch me," she murmured. She left, leaving him standing there by himself with the implications he was no longer able to justify. Not just now. Perhaps never. Erica realized as she looked at her phone somewhere in the city that the silence that followed was louder than any argument, because once you say something, you can't take it back. Yandy was sitting outside in her car, sobbing more than she had on stage, her hands gripping the steering wheel. The difference today was that there was no audience, just suffering and the truth. Where the drama had just concluded, the real damage was happening in silence as others continued to speculate, argue, and take sides. Clarity did not materialize the next morning. When Yandy woke up, her phone flared up as if it had a mind of its own. Think pieces, reaction videos, analyses of every word said during that live event, and all the rumors that followed became the norm as she sat at the kitchen table, cold and untouched, staring at her coffee. She received texts from friends she hadn't spoken to in years, missed calls from producers, and even inquiries about her well-being from distant relatives in the music industry. Fans were so horrified that they stopped covering it altogether. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the hotel's name. Sleep had not really occurred. Erica's voice remarked, Maybe I wanted to see if it was real. That phrase stuck in her head like a bruise you keep poking to see if it hurts. That was all she had, and her kids were still asleep because she was aware that when they woke up, people would ask questions, possibly not from them directly, but rather from the world slowly making its way to her front door. And she was no longer just protecting herself. Mendeecees, on the other hand, woke up to silence. The sort that puts pressure on your chest, notifications telling him what he already knew, no check-in, no good morning text, and she was defending a family that suddenly felt fragile in a way she had never imagined. In contrast to Erica, who went with chaos, he received texts from friends telling him to prepare ahead of time and others telling him to keep quiet. But even though he kept telling himself that things weren't as bad as they seemed, staying silent felt like admitting guilt. His place in this story had been decided by the internet, and it was no longer editable. By midday, she told a long story full of vague claims about being misunderstood, and about people throwing stones when they didn't know the whole truth. The comments were full of intense feelings, and some of her supporters defended her, saying that Yandy should have handled it privately, while others continued to drag her, reminding her that this wasn't the first time her name had been linked to such drama. Yandy was typically quick to respond in order to fix the record, but she was now tired and did not respond as she observed everything, which was new to her. She ignored the calls from the producers until one message finally reached her, forcing her to confront something she had been avoiding. "We need to know where you stand. I'm sick of being the strong one and trying to explain loyalty to those who don't value it." Filming will soon resume. Both public and private, there were stories, cameras, contracts, and people's need for resolution, conflict, and tears. Later that afternoon, her sister returned with food that Yandy really needed but didn't ask for, and they sat on the couch with the TV muted, watching as the world reacted to Yandy's suffering as if it were funny. "This is sick," her sister said. She wasn't sure if she could give them that without breaking. "They forget you're human," Yandy remarked, nodding. "I forgot that too," she said. Erica had left another message. "Is it possible for us to talk without him and without cameras?" Yandy stared at it for a long time. A part of her wanted to take it off immediately. The answers required for another portion could only be supplied by Erica. Just one discussion. After a long period of stillness, she remarked, "That's it." They met in a quiet cafe, away from the usual spots. There are just two women sitting opposite from each other with years of complicated history between them. There is no glamour or entourage. Erica arrived first, her hands trembling as she put on sunglasses and wrapped them around a cup she wasn't drinking from. When Yandy walked in, Erica instinctively stood up, but she hesitated, unsure if that was welcome. "Sit," Yandy replied in a distant but calm voice. Erica took a seat once more and inhaled deeply. "I know you hate me," she said. Yandy cut her off. "This isn't about hate," Erica responded, losing her temper. "It has to do with why. Why did you do this while staring me in the face?" Tears filled her eyes as she talked about feeling disregarded, always being the outsider, and always being judged. She repeated that nothing concrete had happened, even though she admitted that the meetings and texts were wrong. Yandy's expression was unreadable as she listened. "You don't need to touch someone to betray me," she finally whispered. "You just needed to disrespect me, and you did that," Erica remarked, reaching across the table. Yandy declined to take her hand. "I trusted you around my family," Erica said. "Around my children. Are you familiar with the feeling?" She sobbed once more, apologized, and promised to take everything back if she could.